according to the Daily Mirror, which is a mainstream newspaper in the UK, negotiations are already underway between WBA and IBF heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua's team and WBO heavyweight world champion Joseph Parker's team for a big unification showdown in summer of 2018. We don't know what's going to happen in Anthony Joshua's next couple fights. I mean, some of you are going to come out with wisecracks and say, yes, we do know exactly what's going to happen, but it's boxing. Upsets take place throughout the history that you don't expect. That's why they're called upsets, because most people don't expect them. So as long as both Parker and Joshua win their next 1 or 2 fights, then we can look for a unification to be made. Parker's team seem very proactive in terms of making these unifications and what have you, from what I've seen anyway. And clearly they don't mind traveling. They just did so with Hughie Fury. So, and certainly I believe that they are serious about making the Anthony Joshua fight. Because as I mentioned in another video, there's only so much money you can make in New Zealand. It has a very small population. You're not going to be able to make Anthony Joshua type money if you keep on fighting in New Zealand. You're going to have to go to the United Kingdom and have fights there, whether it's against Joshua or Dylan White or Tony Bellew, whoever it is. If you want the big money, you have to go to the United Kingdom. I mean, this fight that Joseph Parker just had on the weekend against Hughie Fury, I believe that's probably his biggest payday to date. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's had a bigger payday than that. He got at least a couple million, I believe, from the Hughie Fury fight, and that's just Hughie Fury. Imagine the amount of money he would make from an Anthony Joshua fight. So as dangerous as people believe that fight is for Joseph Parker, and I have to assume most people believe that Joshua would beat Parker, but regardless of that, the money involved makes me believe that Parker is very serious about taking the Joshua fight. So let's see what happens over the next few months. If both of these guys can remain unbeaten, then hopefully they have a big showdown in the summertime. You know, how do you guys think it would go? Do you think it's going to get to that stage? Or do you think that one of these guys is going to get upset and lose a fight before they get a chance to unify? Because this is what happens in heavyweight boxing. I remember when Lennox Lewis was supposed to fight Tommy Morrison. Lewis was WBC heavyweight world champion in his first reign as champion. He was unbeaten at the time. He was supposed to fight Tommy Morrison, who was the WBO champion, even though the WBO wasn't really a recognized sanctioning body then. Tommy Morrison was still a big name in the heavyweight division. He still had a big fan base, and he was quite popular in the United States. So it was a big fight for Lewis, worth millions at the time. I believe it was like a guaranteed $5 million, and this is in the 90s. So yeah, that fight was supposed to take place. Morrison took a tune-up fight against a guy called Michael Bent, who was actually born in the UK, of Jamaican extraction. Born in the UK, I think from Dulwich, Michael Bent, but he had an amateur career in the US. He was actually a very good amateur. But as a pro, he hadn't really done much. And he was just seen as an easy tune-up for Tommy Morrison. But he ended up knocking Tommy Morrison out in the first round. And that big payday against Lewis that Morrison was going to get went down the drain. These things happen. Mike Tyson was supposed to have a showdown with Evander Holyfield in the 80s when Tyson was unbeaten and tearing through the heavyweight division. He fought a fringe contender / journeyman called Buster Douglas, and we all know what happened there. Who really saw that coming? You know? So you never can tell when it comes to these situations. Even Lennox Lewis himself, he was supposed to fight Riddick Bowe eventually, because Bowe did duck him, but it got to a stage where Bowe apparently was ready to fight Lewis, but Lewis got himself knocked out by Oliver McCall. So again, another situation where a big fight that a lot of us expected, because McCall was, again, kind of a fringe contender. So many people weren't giving McCall any chance against Lewis at all. But things don't always go to plan, especially in heavyweight boxing, when you're talking about these big, strong guys throwing around very heavy leather and small gloves. Strange things can happen. So let me know how you feel about everything I've talked about in this video. It's happening. I'm out.